Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will. We have a special guest for you, Julia. So excited to hear from her today. But before we jump into our discussion with Julia, please be sure you subscribe, share, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. I want to give a shout out to Nick Menard and Associates with Dream Vacations for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you, Nick Menard.
You're welcome, hello, winners.
Hello on this Wanderlust Wednesday. So, Nick, would you like the honors of introducing our special guest?
Oh, yeah. It's my honor today to introduce Julia. So fun fact, I know Julia for 3 years now. Actually, that's probably the first vendor. No, it's not probably. It's the first vendor I got to know when I started the agency. So it was the first one. So I'm very happy to have Julia here today. She's the Director of National and Strategic Account at HX, more to come. So Julia is an adventure seeker with a lifelong goal of visiting at least 100 countries. Yes, 100. Her passion for travel began at age 14 when she toured Europe playing violin. I have a question about that. In an orchestra. In college, she had the incredible opportunity to experience semester at sea, and she have not stopped exploring since. After visiting more than 50 countries, she knew she had to turn her love to travel into a career. So she began a career as a travel agent with Flight Center Travel Group, then moved to GoGo Vacation, that's where I met her, where she advanced into the role of Director of Sales and Brand Ambassador. When a role with HX appeared, she knew it was the perfect fit. She has now been with the company for over 3 years, and every day she's energized by the opportunity to share her passion for expedition and exploration travel with the industry and beyond. So it's our pleasure to introduce to you officially Julia Swenda. Thank you so much, Julia, for joining us today.
Thank you, Nick. And thank you, Will. I mean, this is so exciting. I just want to point out, I've known you, I think, for about 4 years now because...
There you go. Time flies.
Yeah, I mean, we had just this whole thing in Cancun. I just, took him to like 10 properties a day, and he let me know that he did not have that much fun, but it was great.
I agree. Hey, everybody knows, if you listen to the podcast for a while, I have some issue with my right leg. I have a lot of blood clot issue, and that's the only health issue I have. But I have that. And so going with Julia and another 15 agents to Cancun to visit resort, it's a lot of work. Let me tell you, you leave early morning, you come back late at night. All you do is walking, like learning and stuff like that. So it's great, but it was a lot. So at the end, my leg was 3 times the volume, but I learned a lot. So thank you for that, Julia.
I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm not laughing about that, but I'm happy that you were on the trip, and I'm happy that we got to do, but I'm so sorry about the difficulty with the walking. Next time I'll get you a scooter. No problem.
Oh, I take the scooter. But anyway, Julia, I know I made a little introduction here for you, but I want to hear from you. Tell us a little bit more about you, about HX, about your passion and everything like that, so it can set the stage for the audience.
Absolutely. So, I have this goal. I have so many countries that I want to get to, and I've been traveling the world really since I was 10. So my parents gave me the gift of travel. I had no idea how much of a gift it was until I started paying for myself. But I needed to get my 7th continent. So actually, Nick, right after I met you, I said, I want to go to Antarctica to, check that box off. And when I went there, I said, I can't believe that there are ships that go and I can sell this, So after I came back from Antarctica, I was looking for a company. And I love this adventure travel, this expedition travel, because you're getting off the ship, you're learning at the same time, but you're also immersive. And, it's not so much of a booze cruise. I mean, we have alcohol, but you're not going there for a booze cruise. And that really is the type of travel that I love. Nick, I love to walk, as you already know, and I love to be active. So why not, go to these incredible places that less than 1% of the population will ever reach in these incredible vessels?
Absolutely. No, and I know you love to work, and I know you are a breath of fresh air. I remember, like, no one gets bored 1 second with you because you are passionate. You explain everything. You have the passion of travel. You embodied that. So thank you for that. It's very contagious. So Tell us more about HX. I know it's expedition, but what does expedition means? Because we talked about it during the last national conference, and it's fascinating. You showed me some stuff about people going to, I believe it was Antarctica, and then you took like water or ice, and then you analyzed that in labs on the ship. I mean, I was like, what is that? It looks like a college, like, study room, or not study room, like scientific room. And so if you can tell us more about what the experience is all about compared to all the other line that people know about.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going back to your first question, what is expedition cruising? Because it is the fastest growing segment in the travel sector. I mean, everyone's already been to Mexico, Caribbean, Europe on these cruises. So people are kind of looking about what's next. Where's the next place that I can go, especially those destination collectors. So really, expedition cruising is about getting a smaller ship experience and getting that authentic immersive. You're getting up close in nature with or you're getting up close and personal with nature. Sorry, my words. But also, you're going in these zodiacs and going to these landscapes that you feel like you're the first human to set foot. So it's kind of cool to be like a modern day explorer, even though somebody else is doing all the work for you. And you're coming back to your very comfortable cabin with plumbing and all of the fun things. So that's one thing. I mean, expedition is just all about what's next, that new frontier, but also doing it in comfort. And then you were talking about our science centers, I'm assuming. So that is really what sets us apart. We are the founders of Expedition 130 years ago. But really, another thing that sets us apart is the scientific collaborations that we've had since 1902. So we have about 12 to 23 staff scientists on board, and we have state-of-the-art science centers. So, I mean, I wish I had pictures and videos to show you, and I can send those to you.
We'll add them.
Yeah. But these science centers truly are usable. And they're interactive. And we have a science boat that you can go out and collect water samples, and you can look and through the microscope and see the different copepods and plankton and chlorophyll and all these different things. And I can talk about all the science, and I'm not a scientist, I'm in sales, right? But it's fascinating because you're just really connecting the world and how significant these places that we're traveling to, how significant they are for the rest of the world. I mean, I could keep going about it, but that's just a little snippet.
No, that's great. That's fantastic. So when you have people, someone is listening to this and said, okay, I want to know, where can I go next and experience HX? What would be the first step? Of course, contacting us, but what would be the first step for them to think about destination? What would you recommend as a great first experience with HX, and why?
Okay, so that's difficult because I say everywhere, right? Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't like cold, or I don't want to do this. But I will say, depending on where you live, I'm based in the Philadelphia area. I mean, our winters, and I'm going to talk in Fahrenheit. I don't know Celsius that well, sorry. But Fahrenheit, it gets down into the the low teens here, or the low digits, 5 degrees up to 10 degrees. Well, in Antarctica, it's anywhere from 32 degrees, which is 0 in Celsius. I do know that one. But then all the way up to like 40 something. So you're not that cold, and we do give you a jacket, to help with the layering and things like that. So it's not as cold as what people think. It's probably colder from where you live rather than in places like Greenland or the Northwest Passage, even Alaska. Think of Alaska in the summer. That's pretty much the same in Antarctica. Because we go during, opposite seasons of the Northern Hemisphere. But to answer your question, sorry, even if you don't like cold, you have to get there. If you want to walk with penguins or in Antarctica, you have to go to Antarctica to do so. But if you wanted to walk with the northernmost penguin, we do have the Galapagos, and that's warm all year round. So you can go that route. But I would say walk with the northernmost penguin to the southernmost penguin on both of our ships. Greenland, I definitely recommend getting there before tourism just gets larger and larger, because right now you're visiting traditional settlements, and you're meeting with people who are still, hunting and sealskin kayaks. And I feel like as tourism goes, their traditions will be more and more lost. So, I mean, the Northwest Passage, the Aleutian Islands in Alaska, Svalbard, there's so many places. But I would say, where haven't you been? That's going to be the first thing. And what is your biggest draw for, choosing an expedition? Do you want to walk with penguins, or do you want to see polar bears? Do you want to see, puffins or anything like that? That's really the choice of how you can choose an expedition. And when you talk, Nick and Will, when you do speak with the clients about where they want to go, you can ask them certain things. What are you looking out of this expedition? Are you trying to cross off your seventh continent? Are you trying to cross off a place that you haven't been yet? There's so many different factors.
Absolutely.
Somebody who's newer to expedition, like what are some things that they should consider that they might not otherwise think about in terms of their travel? Because obviously it's a little different. It's more active. There's certainly a learning component, but are there other aspects that you think for the nuanced expedition traveler that they should know in advance or consider when deciding on an expedition experience?
Yeah, great question. Because especially if you're coming from those large ships with 10,000 passengers or 5,000 passengers, our largest ship, we usually have about 420 passengers on. That's our largest. And our smallest being 90 passengers. So you're not going to have the crowds of people. That's something to consider. But we're also not going to be with the Broadway shows on board. We're not going to have 20 plus restaurants on board. So really, if you're looking for entertainment other than lectures and speaking with people of like mind, that's something to consider. Bring a book, or I like to bring Uno and start Uno wars. But with me, I'm very shy, just kidding. But I love to just meet people, because you're meeting people from all over the world. But you're also out on the deck looking at these incredible landscapes, and you're whale watching, or you're looking for certain things, and you're really just speaking with other passengers on board, or the scientists on board, or whoever you go with on board. And if you're a solo traveler, it's easy to meet people. About 20% of our travelers are solo travelers.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's really good. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned the difference between your ship, the smaller one, the bigger one, which is still very small compared to what people are used to here in Florida. But how many ships do you guys have, and what can be the expectation? I know I saw the cabins on picture. You showed me everything. It looks really good. But can you give a little taste about what to expect on the ship? What about the quality of the staterooms? The food and stuff. You already mentioned a little bit, but can you give a little bit more detail so people can have a better feel about it?
Absolutely. So our ships range, like I said, they can hold up to 490 passengers, but we usually cap it around 420. Those ships are our hybrid ships. They were built in 2019 and 2020, so they pretty much sat during COVID. They're brand new, pretty much. But they were the first and only hybrid-powered expedition ships in the world. And the beauty of that is they can go 22,000 miles without filling up. So if sustainability is important to you, we are the number one most sustainable expedition line. But also, with having that hybrid technology, we can be sailing in complete silence. I know you're talking about the inside, but I'm talking about the outside a little bit for right now.
That's right.
The importance of the silence of these ships, too, is you can pull into these hard-to-reach areas and hear the crackling of the glacier, or, hearing whales come up and breathe, and it's really difficult to hear in other ships with all the noise, but you're in complete silence in these hybrid ships. Now, on those ships specifically, some of those suites have their own private fireplaces. Some have their own private jacuzzis on the deck. So like I said, you're not roughing it. It's a boutique style feel on these ships. And then on those ships, you have 3 different restaurants to choose from. So if you wanted more of your fine dining, if you're in a suite, you get a la carte meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then if you're just in a regular cabin, you do have Anu, which is plated buffet for breakfast and lunch. And then for dinner, it's always a la carte. But then one of my favorites is Fredheim, which is our bistro. And if you want your burger and fries, your milkshakes, we have king crab rolls, things like that. So there's a lot of different selections. And one thing that we rolled out this past year are theme nights. So I was recently in Greenland, and they had Greenland's best chef on board, and they were serving all Greenlandic dishes for 3 nights, and then they switched to Filipino cuisine, and then they switched to different cuisines. So it's kind of fun, and they're sold out every night because people are just looking for something different that they can't get at home.
You speak Will's language now.
All about
That's why I was waiting. I thought he's gonna say something. Every time someone talk about food, he's the first one to react.
Oh, I was trying to make sure my stomach rumbling didn't come across the mic, so I was trying to be quiet.
That's awesome. So, what is the kind of, the age category where people usually are sailing on HX? It doesn't mean that you cannot go different direction, but just so people have a feel, because it's a question we get. Am I not too old for this or too young for this? That you hear that. So what would be a good age category for HX based on your experience and your data?
Well, okay, so you can be too young, especially for places like Antarctica. There is an age limit of 5. And for the Galapagos, you must be at least 6 years old. I do not recommend bringing a 5-year-old to Antarctica, and it's definitely up to the captain's discretion to allow them onto the Zodiacs because of the different, it's an area. You're down at the bottom of the earth, so keep that in mind. If you have a nanny, keep the nanny and the child on board. That's fantastic. And you go out and you enjoy it. But we were just featured in People magazine last year with a 94-year-old woman who had never had a passport. And her goal was to reach all 7 continents with her grandson. And she came on HX to get her Antarctica trip. So you can definitely Google that and see us. I think they were even on one of the morning news shows. And that was really cool to see. But we have all age groups. I will say, depending on the length of the itinerary, that's going to determine what the average ages, obviously time and money, but I'm seeing a lot of 30-year-olds and 40-year-old birthday parties celebrating in Antarctica. So it's kind of that big milestone bucket list trip that they're just, celebrating big birthdays for them. But you could say our average overall is probably early to mid 60s overall.
Wow.
When they celebrate their birthday on Antarctica, do they eat ice cream cake? I'm sorry, I'm just joking.
Well, funny, I was in Greenland for my birthday, and the crew, it was amazing. They knew. I didn't tell anybody, right? But they have your birthday because, your passport and everything. And the crew went all out. They decorated my room or my cabin, and they had a big celebration at dinner. And my parents didn't tell them anything. I didn't tell them anything. They just went out and did this huge. And that's the beauty of the onboard experience, too, because we're so small. Before you even sit down, they'll be like, oh, Diet Coke or, whatever your drink of choice is, they know exactly what that is. And they have it ready for you, or they ask if that's what you want. It's really a nice, intimate experience.
Yeah, that's a very curated, white glove type of service. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So the question I have, because it's go back to the expedition piece, because that's something that I know, and we had an episode like a couple of weeks ago about the national conference that we aired a couple of weeks ago now, and I have to say, expedition, it's literally what Julia just said. It's booming, it's growing. So based on your experience the last 3 years working at HX, how do you see the evolution go? How far do you think this is gonna go? Because right now, when you hear expedition, it's mostly like those Antarctica, North Pole, like things like that. But what other places you see expeditions starting to go in the future, probably?
Well, you bring up a really good point as well, because expedition, everybody wants a piece, right? And just to give you some idea, about 6 years ago, there were only 5 vessels going to Antarctica, and we were one of them. Now there are over 23. So even if you're on a vessel that's more than 500 passengers, you cannot land. You're just doing a drive-by. And people don't realize that. You're going all the way down there and you're not even getting off the ship. So that's something to consider with going with a true expedition company. Like I said, we've been in business for over 130 years. We've been in Antarctica for over 27 years. So that's something to consider too. We have experience. Our vessels are, planned for all of that. But to answer your question about where is expedition going, there are so many unexplored areas, especially on ships. So places like the Northwest Passage, less than 50 some ships in all of recorded human history have ever completed it successfully, and we have 2 ships that do it every year. So that's one thing. I know the North Pole is another one, but that could be kind of controversial because you do have to break ice, which is not very environmentally friendly. So that's a whole other discussion. But places like the South Pacific, you're going to see a lot more ships going to the South Pacific. You're going to see them, depending on the environmental and so forth. But West Africa, we actually pulled our production out of West Africa for social unrest. So if safety is number one, but you're going to see different places where ships very rarely go, and just to the unexplored. So keep that in mind, when you're looking for the next destination.
Absolutely. I love that because if, for people listening to the show, like the last year or so, you hear us talk more about Antarctica than any other destinations. So it is literally the first destination that comes to mind. And after, spending some time with new friends on the national conference, I heard from so many people saying, like, if I have one last to do from all the trip I did before dying, because they were older, they said it's gonna be Antarctica. I mean, they said it's the place that change every time we go. Like, it's like never twice the same experience. And it's funny because when I started in the industry, I didn't think about Antarctica. But then when I started listening and hearing more about it, I realized that it's not a destination that people go once. Like a lot of people say, I want to check box that's part of the world, the southern part of the world, but they will go back because they were mind blown by the experience and by what they were seeing every day. And it's every day something different. So you reinforce the fact that Antarctica is so a high demand based on the number you just mentioned about the amount of vessel going there. But I think it's very important, like you mentioned, that if you go, you need to go with a company like HX who are able to actually put you on the ice and put you on the water and do the actually expedition and experience that you're never going to forget. You mentioned also Galapagos, which is also a place that we talk about on this show often because I mean, literally, those are 2 of the 3-4 places that I absolutely want to go or continue to go. So I love that you mention all of this, Julia. It's reinforced the power of travel and what we can experience more than what people in Florida probably know about the Caribbean back and forth 75 times and think that it's the most beautiful things on earth, but it's so much more to experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, going back to Antarctica, there are 3 seasons in the one season of Antarctica, if that makes sense. So I'm actually going back to Antarctica. I just booked it for my parents and I. We're going for Christmas and New Year's this year. And I'm going to the Serengeti of the South. So if you've never heard of South Georgia, it's the highest concentration of animals in the Southern Hemisphere other than the Galapagos. And I'm very excited to go and see this new place. I've never been. And Shackleton is buried there and all of that. And if you know Shackleton's story, I highly recommend watching Endurance on the National Geographic Channel. It's a very good documentary. But it's just great to learn about the history of these areas and all of the explorers that you are following in their footsteps. And, just every time, like you said, Nick, every time you go to Antarctica, it's going to be different. The ice, the lighting, and if you can describe Antarctica, you've never been there because, like you said, it's different every time you go.
Wow. Well, it's, I never talked to someone who've been there who is disappointed. I never heard, because I can hear that about people going to safari, even though 95% love safari. But you always hear some people that may say, hey, it's good one time, I'm not going to go again. You hear that about any place in the world. Antarctica, I never heard someone saying I've been and I did it, I will not do it again. So definitely, if you're listening to this and you have Antarctica in your bucket list, or you're not, you probably have it now, please feel free to let us know, and we're more than happy to put you on a beautiful HX ship next time you are planning your next big vacation. So thank you again, Julia, for giving all those details. And I will give you the honor or ask the famous question.
Oh, I'm going to ask one more question before I ask the famous question. So, going back, how often are you playing violin when you're going on your expedition? This is Julia.
Oh, how often am I playing violin? Well, I never travel with it, especially to these places. But sadly, I had to give up my orchestra. So I've played since I was a young child, and I actually have been able to go. I toured Europe when I was 14. I played in multiple orchestras. I played in college, but I was also I was a Division I soccer player in college, but I also played the violin. And then I went and I've played. I worked for the Pittsburgh Symphony in college. I played in LA when I lived there. I played in multiple orchestras here in the Philadelphia area. But once I started traveling about 90% from my position, I had to give up my orchestra. So sadly, I still play in quartets, and my friend's family owns a music group or a music store. So we play in groups like that. But I don't play as much as I used to, which is sad. But I still play.
Yeah, quite accomplished, obviously, doing all that and having the experience, and very cool that you also balance that while you're playing D1 soccer. That's very cool. What's your favorite piece to play?
Well, one of my favorite pieces.
Top 5. I'll make it easier. Top 5.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many incredible composers, right? So it's hard to just choose one. But I will say one that it tugs on my emotions every time I hear it is Dvorak Humoresque, and it's the one with Ishtok Perlman and Yo-Yo Ma. And if you really listen to that piece, it's a conversation. They truly are having a conversation with their instruments, and those two, of course, are some of the best that I've ever played. And but Dvorak Humoresque by Yo-Yo Ma and Ishtok Perlman playing that piece. Oh, it gets me every time whenever I hear it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, no, that is a excellent one.
I do have a follow-up question, though. You should take that violin during your Christmas and New Year expedition with your parents, because I'm not sure, but if you play that in Antarctica, I would be shocked if some whales or some animals are coming out wondering what the hell is happening in my quiet place here. So you may try that, and maybe you will discover something. Who never know?
Well, I don't know. That's so much luggage to carry. I have my bag, my carry-on, and
I'm sure you know someone from the company who can allow you to get that on the ship.
Well, no, I can easily get it on the ship. I'm just saying, who's going to carry all of it? Yeah. Hey, you can carry it down for me, okay, Nick? Hey.
There you go. Put them to work. So the question Nick was alluding to is how we usually like to end our chats is, was there a question we didn't ask, but something that you would have liked us to ask that you wanted to share with our audience, or something to showcase from yourself or for HX?
Yeah, well, I wanted to just make a comment before I have the question is, don't sleep on places like Greenland. Greenland is going to be the next Antarctica. It's a 3-hour flight from Newark, New Jersey to Nuuk. We have that nonstop with United included in all of that. So definitely don't sleep on that destination. And some of the best fjord systems in the world. So that is an amazing destination, and I can go on and on about that. But my question to you both is, when are you both getting on an HX trip and getting a group on board?
Oh, that's the first time we get challenged on our own question.
I know.
I love that. Well,
2026 is the goal. 2027 is the commitment.
Ooh, I like that. Look at you. No, I mean, Julia, it's not a lack of not willing to go. It's finding the time to squeeze that in, but definitely a group. It's something that I'm definitely planning to do together with Will and the other associates of the agency, and that's why we're gonna have you also coming or on a Zoom doing a training of HX, because I think it's something that people need to to know and learn more about, because
Mhm.
everybody know the major cruise line and resort around the world. But those gems are usually the one that everyday people don't may know. And
Yeah.
so I want them to know more about it, and I want myself to learn more about it. And the best way to learn is to go experience ourselves. So I will work on something for us to go as a team, as a group, but also, of course, to open up to our clients and our followers.
Yeah.
Yeah, personally, you intrigued me with Greenland. Like I hadn't been thought. It's like I was telling Nick, and I've mentioned on the podcast a number of times before I got into the travel business, I never really thought of Antarctica. Now my aperture has been opened about that, but I haven't heard somebody talk as passionately as you about Greenland. So now I'm like very intrigued. So thank you for that.
Of course. Anytime. I mean, I have pictures and videos and everything, and just expedition travel in general, it truly opens your eyes, and it is transformational. And I can be as cliche as possible, but it's all true. It really is. And you have to experience it to understand. And, Nick always knows I'm passionate about anything I like. So I'm like, if I didn't like it, I'd be like, no, I don't recommend it. But this is definitely something everybody should try for sure.
I really appreciate it, Julia. I mean, obviously your enthusiasm and passion for it comes through very clearly. And like I said, opened up my eyes to additional destination I hadn't really thought of much. So thank you for that. And so that'll do it for this Wanderlust Wednesday winners. Thanks again. Please be sure you subscribe, share, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. Thanks again to Nick Menard and Associates with Dream Vacations for sponsoring today's episode, and a sincere thank you to our special guest, Julia from HX, and sharing all that she has shared today. And if you want to learn more, please be sure to contact Dream Vacations, and they will set up your expedition dream vacation for you. And that'll do it for today's episode winners. So any last closing thoughts, Nick or Julia?
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you both. Thank you. I'm excited. And see you all on an HX expedition.
Yeah, maybe even hear Julia play violin. Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
All right, bye, winners. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.